Hi, this is Zibby Owens, and you're listening to the award-winning podcast, Moms Don't Have Time to Read Books. I'm also the host of Moms Don't Have Time to Lose Weight, and I'm the editor of the anthology, which you should run out and buy, called Moms Don't Have Time to, a Quarantine Anthology. All proceeds of that book go to COVID-19 vaccine research. And I'm the editor-in-chief of Moms Don't Have Time to Write, a new publication on Medium, and we're accepting submissions, so please send your personal essays there. And if all that isn't enough, you can follow me on Instagram at Zibby Owens, and my website is zibbyowens.com. Okay, now back to this amazing podcast. Listeners, if you enjoy this podcast, I promise you will love my new audiobook for Moms Don't Have Time to, a Quarantine Anthology. It's not about the quarantine, but a lot of the essays were written during that time about other things that moms don't have time to do or other busy people, things like reading, eating, working out, breathing, having sex, and 60 best-selling and notable authors wrote essays. All those authors have been on this very podcast. So if you like to listen to my conversations, if you want to get to know these authors better, I read the audiobook myself. Check it out on Audible, Moms Don't Have Time to, a Quarantine Anthology. Again, Audible audiobook. Go listen to it. It's like 60 mini podcasts. I hope you enjoy. I'm excited to welcome back Elyssa Friedland onto my podcast, this time for her novel Last Summer at the Golden Hotel, which is flying off the shelves and is currently in its fourth printing. And I know Elyssa is freaking out on Instagram that the shipments are delayed and everything, but this is a good problem to have. Elyssa is the author of 4 novels and a forthcoming picture book. She attended Yale University, where she served as managing editor of the Yale Daily News and is a graduate of Columbia Law School. She worked as an associate at a major firm before turning to writing full-time. Elyssa currently teaches creative writing at Yale. Her work has been published in the Washington Post, McSweeney's, Pop Sugar, Real Simple, Bustle, Modern Bride, New York Magazine, Columbia Journalism Review, CBS Market Watch, Yale Alumni Magazine, and Your Prom. Elyssa resides in New York City with her husband and 3 young children. The Floating Feldmans, by the way, was a People magazine People Pick and a Skim Read selection. That was the book right before this one, The Floating Feldmans, and was praised by Cosmo, Bustle, Good Housekeeping, National Geographic, Women's Day, Women's World, and many others. The Intermission, which was her novel before that, was praised by the Wall Street Journal, She Reads, Pure Wow, and many others. Her debut novel, Love and Miscommunication, was a best book in Cosmo, Glamour, and more. Finally, The Museum of Lost Teeth, her first picture book, will be published in fall 2022. She's also a co-author of First Street, a serialized novel available in electronic and audio formats about 4 ambitious lawyers clerking at the Supreme Court. And I actually had her on to discuss both First Street and The Intermission, and so this is, I think, she is my most frequently featured author. And we did this in person, by the way. Hi, Elyssa.
Hi, Zibby. How are you?
Thanks for coming back on Moms Don't Have Time to Read Books. I feel like you might have been on more than anybody. This is like your 3rd time.
Yes. Oh, that's true, because
Right?
I came for the joint project that I did. Wow. So I'm a three-peat.
A 3-peat.
That's an honor.
Wow.
Thank you.
Okay, Last Summer at the Golden Hotel. This book was so good. Really immersive, amazing. I don't know how you developed all these characters well enough that I have a visual of everybody in my head. I didn't see the plot twist coming. Seriously, I mean, I often feel like a moron when I talk about books because I'm like, I didn't see that. Maybe I should have.
It just means that we're doing our job well.
I guess so. I'm like totally in it. So tell listeners what Last Summer at the Golden Hotel is about, and then how you came up with this plot. I know it's in the note and everything, but.
So Last Summer at the Golden Hotel is really about a hotel. The Golden Hotel is a resort in the Catskills, very similar to Kellerman's from Dirty Dancing. And I am certain that like 99.9% of your listeners have seen Dirty Dancing probably at least twice, maybe more like 10 times.
I think I saw it in the theater like 8 times.
Of course.
Obsessed.
I mean, and it's really stood the test of time as the best movie ever. And so the Golden Hotel is very similar to Kellerman's and also the Steiner Resort in season 2 of The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, another fictional Catskills hotel. But in real life, there were thousands of them in the area for decades. And these hotels were the most glamorous, the place to see and be seen. There was definitely a concentration of Jewish people that went to the Catskills, but there were other ethnic groups that had places in the Catskills also. There was a Greek area, there was an Italian area, and it was basically a refuge for people who lived in the city to get out of the city and have fresh air and just have fun in the summertime. It wasn't like an era of 24/7 connectedness with a smartphone, obviously. So families would go for weeks at a time. Usually the mother and children would go for the entire summer, and the husbands would drive up on the weekends, really old school. And it was like, I would say good, clean family fun, but there's a lot of not clean things also that happen up in the Catskills. It's kind of like what happens in the Catskills stays in the Catskills, if you will. Anyway, the Golden was really the preeminent resort for decades. And, the book opens in present times, 2019. I said it pre-COVID just to sidestep that whole issue. And the hotel's the last one in the region standing. And the guest book is half full only. The furniture is duct taped together. The pool is full of goose poop. The grounds are just impossible to maintain. And really, the writing is on the wall that the hotel should be shuttered. And an attractive offer comes from a casino developer that wants to buy the hotel and convert it into a casino, which really means just buy the property and raise the buildings and put up a casino in its place. This brings the two families that co-own the hotel together back to campus for a week to decide whether they should sell the hotel or whether they should try to modernize and try, one last ditch effort to keep the hotel standing. And both families arrive with 3 generations in tow. You've got the founders who built the hotel with their bare hands practically, and they're very attached to the place. You have millennial grandchildren who are totally disengaged from the hotel, but then the minute they get there, decide that they're the experts on how to fix it. And like simply you need artisanal cheese and goat yoga and a cryotherapy tank. And as long as it becomes a hipster paradise, it'll be saved. And then you have the middle generation that I probably identify with the most. And they're just like, I don't care what happens to the hotel, but I'm right now dealing with my parents and my children at the same time. And they all just want to run away. And it's a big cast of characters. And I liked that because the Catskills was this very robust place that touched a lot of lives. And I liked being able to show what the hotel meant to a lot of people. Obviously, I will not give away what happens in the end, except to say that I've received a lot of emails that people were very satisfied by the ending, which was a nice feeling.
I liked the ending too.
Thank you.
I liked it. It was I liked how you tied everything up. Sort of, I could see where every character was going. Like, I could see a part 2, perhaps. Have you thought about it?
We'll see. I don't know. I mean, I think I'm mostly hoping that this goes to screen, which is like, I do have a film agent so far. I have not sold the option rights, but I've just gotten so many emails from people like begging to see this on screen. So for me, like that would be the dream. I don't love sequels so much, like in terms of writing, because like when I'm done and I'm on to the next. Mm-hmm. So I love these characters, but then I fall in love with my new set of characters.
Yeah, and by the way, you already have your new book in here, which I was like, good for you. So Most Likely is coming out in 2022.
Yeah, next fall.
And tell everybody about that book.
So Most Likely came out of a story that my mother told me, which was really funny, which she tells to my kids when they come home from school and they're having a bad day. Now you're going to tell your kids this story. Okay. So my mom in high school had a big crush on this guy, Lewis. And she's like, he never looked at me. I was nerdy. I was poor. I was nerdy. He didn't even know my name probably until like one time he wanted me to write a paper for him, which I did. He was so handsome, so, gorgeous and popular and an athlete. And, fast they graduate high school, obviously don't expect to ever see each other again. My mom goes to college. She meets my father shortly after college. They get married. They buy their first house, a small house on Staten Island. And they, for the first time, call and arrange to have their windows cleaned. And who shows up to clean the windows but Lewis, my mom's major, major crush. And not only is he the window washer, he fell off the ladder and he fell from the second floor like into the bushes. Totally fine. But here's this guy who my mom like worshipped, who's like, she's like pulling him out of pine needles, So that story has stuck with me forever. And it's a great story for like when your kids come home and they're like, I have no friends, or I feel stupid, or this or that, because who we are and what we are in high school and what we turn into 20, 25 years later, sometimes it's a straight trajectory and sometimes it's really anything but. So Most Likely is about 4 women who reunite at their 25th high school reunion. They've stayed friends, but they're spread across the country. They chat, but they're not, seeing each other all that often. And they get drunk and they start going through the yearbook on the first night of the reunion, and they come across their high school superlatives, which are nothing like what they've turned into. And they have a bit of a moment of reckoning, and they're each like, is this really where I want to be with my life? All but one of them, who seems absolutely to have it all. She really seems to have reached her superlative. The other three are nowhere near what was, expected of them or what they were voted to become. And they decide to give each other until the end of the school year to try to actualize their dreams. And they support each other. They hit many bumps along the way. And it really, in a comical way, in a heartfelt way, addresses like, what does it mean for a woman to have it all?
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
And by the way, may I just commend you on how well you talk about all your books?
Thank you.
Yes.
I feel like I tend to be long-winded.
No, it's great. It's, anyway, what were you most likely to be when you were in high school?
Well, I thankfully we didn't have any superlatives, but I probably like didn't deviate that much from, I was the valedictorian in my high school. I then went to Yale. I then went to Columbia Law School. I'm like such a type A nerd. And while I'm now in a creative field, I'm still like ambitious, and I'm like checking my Amazon ranking every 30 seconds. Like it's like the girl who went to the science teacher and said, you said you'd post the grades. You said you'd post the grades. It's still the same girl that's like refreshing Amazon and like checking how many reviews I have. So I really haven't changed that much, other than to say that I'm a lot more confident. Like I had no confidence in high school. I mean, I definitely was like, never felt good about myself, never thought I'd have a boyfriend. Like, and that I've like grown into my skin. I'm certainly like, I'm about to turn 40. I feel so much better about myself. I might look worse than I did then, but I feel a lot better.
I'm sure
about
you don't look worse.
Myself. So because not everyone is totally different than who they were in high school, but there were definitely people in my high school. Like we have, people from my graduating class who are brain surgeons now, and they were in the bottom classes. Like people thought, so either like they're terrible brain surgeons and no one should go to them, or they just blossomed later. And I think it's such an important lesson. And that's really if you're talking about in the professional track, but even just like the girl who was like mean, but everyone followed her around. She was such a queen bee, like kind of a loser now.
Yeah.
I'm sure you have
yes,
some similar stories.
I'm debating what I would say out loud on this podcast. But yes, there's like this whole thing like peaked in 7th grade. Like, I feel like that, like we always used to talk in high school. Oh, no, that guy peaked in 7th grade. And like, that was like his era. That was her era. And like, those chances are, like, I feel like it's inversely correlated. How your sort of status ranking in 7th grade to your like middle-aged success or something. I don't know. I feel like
your husband would have like an interesting take on this, because I know he's a competitive tennis player. He was. And like, I have heard that in Europe, they actually don't allow kids to compete until like a certain very mature age, like much older than they start in the United States, because like if they do, they peak too early. And it apparently like really diminishes your chances for long-term success if you're like a 6-year-old out on the court competing, which I think, and there's some statistics also about like Olympic medalists typically start their sport later than other like very good people who don't medal.
Kyle didn't start out playing tennis. He started playing tennis to improve his football skills.
Oh, well, so there you go.
Yeah.
So that kind of proves it, so it's sort of interesting, this whole idea of not wanting to peak too early.
Yeah. And then look at all the pressure. I mean, like Naomi Osaka, I don't know if you've been following with the French Open, and, the effect on sort of your mental health I wonder if there's some social corollary, right? When you like peak and you can't deal with the pressure, sort of, these queen bee girls, maybe, I don't know.
Or just as we mature, we're like, actually, it's not so great to hang around with a mean person. Like I'd rather, it's just, I don't know, I'm so glad. Like I see it, and even when I see my daughter come home upset, I'm like, oh, I wish you could just have the crystal ball I have.
Totally.
Because that mean girl,
I know.
No one's going to be following her around soon enough.
It's so true. I know. Especially, it's so weird having kids. I have 2 kids who are just finishing 7th grade. It's like, I don't know. I feel like I was just in 7th grade. But by the way, my most likely, and ours were all jokes, but mine was most likely to teach driver's ed because I failed my road test so many times. And then I got in so many cars.
Are you a good driver now?
As long as I don't have to park.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah, I feel like I'm doing a lot better. Okay, let's talk about this book a little bit more, because there was like so much in here. Part of what you wrote about sort of the rise and fall of the Catskills Hotel was based on the 3 A's of why the Jews even had gone and why they are no longer going. And you talked about the advent of air conditioning, assimilation, that now there's like lots of other places that Jews and other groups can go. And what was the third one?
Airfare.
Airfare, right.
Yeah, which is probably the biggest. And you hear it at the end. Max Kellerman in Dirty Dancing actually says the line, I think when he's talking to Dr. Hausman, and he's like, it feels like it's all slipping away. These kids don't want to come and take foxtrot lessons with their parents. They want 13 cities in 10 days, you know? And so, because Dirty Dancing was actually made in the 80s, meant to show the 60s. So the hotels were already starting to decline. I went to the Catskills with my family in the 90s. We used to stay at Kutcher's. There's actually an amazing documentary that I relied on called Welcome to Kutcher's that's available on Amazon Prime. And it's all about the Kutcher family and the decline of their hotel and how it was the most treasured place for so many families, but they just couldn't keep the lights on anymore because while people had the most fond memories of going there and having this peaceful time and being in nature, they're like, except I just got an email that says like, I could fly to Iceland for $119. So I could go back to Liberty, New York for my 30th time, or I could see Iceland, cross something off my bucket list. And so the Catskills really did fall out of favor, but there is a revival now. It is of a more hipster variety. I mean, there's like, I just was interviewed on New York Public Radio, and the host, Allison Stewart, was like, I'm going in there. She's my age. She's like, I'm going to the Catskills this weekend. And I was like, oh, where are you going? And she tells me the name of the hotel, and I look it up. I mean, it couldn't be more hipster. Like every room is some totally bizarre theme. Seems like the entire hotel was made for Instagram. And that is definitely happening. Like I remember I went to Scribner's Lodge for the weekend to, do some research about the area. And it's like, all of Brooklyn has like gone to the Catskills now. It's like hip parents that are like skinny and have tattoos and their kids have like cool strollers. Like that's the new Catskills. So it is not such a dead area anymore.
So I'm not cool enough for the Catskills.
I think you might not be.
Yeah.
No offense.
Right. That's okay. None taken. It's all right.
I mean, I'm not either, for what it's worth.
I know all the like hipster places. I don't know. I just like have missed I'm just not hip. It's okay. It's okay. I love this whole, how often Phoebe is posting in her Instagram as someone who like is obsessed with Instagram at Zibby Owens, by the way. And how you make fun, like the way you poke fun basically at every character is like what makes me smile. And the way, she'll like take a picture of whatever and like 5 seconds later she's posting, and then how you had her climb that tree and like take a picture from or whatever building or what, I don't know, she was up high somewhere. And just this need to capture everything as you're doing it and make everything a moment. Like, tell me a little about that.
So Phoebe has turned into, seems like the majority of people's favorite character. And I think it's because, so Phoebe is this gorgeous millennial with a great body and long blonde hair, and she's beautiful. And she doesn't really seem to have a job because all she does is walk around with her phone. But actually, she makes quite a bit of money because she posts a t-shirt and then that t-shirt is sold out 10 minutes later. So she's hired by companies like as a traditional influencer. Naturally, her grandparents are like concerned and they would much prefer to see her in law school, like her father. Like he went, he's an attorney, but instead she's like totally not attracted to this traditional job. And she's like making a ton of money and actually has terrific ideas, and she's plucky. And I think that she's actually like, I don't even think of her as someone who's so obsessed with Instagram because she's really monetizing it. Like for her, it's really more of a career. It's not like a, mom who's just desperate to show off her kids every 2 seconds, or like a person who has to show off where they are on vacation. She's like, I'm showing off where I am on vacation and I'm laughing all the way to the bank, because this hotel, I'm here for free. And
she ends up, and she does a lot of good.
She does a lot of good. She's a really likable character. I did this in my last book, The Floating Feldmans as well. Like I love to write about women who are easily dismissed, but who are surprising, because I think like you walk in with a certain body and a certain look and being of a certain age, and it's very easy to dismiss. And I there's nothing I love more than like the Elle Woods story, like what? Like it's hard, you got into Harvard Law School. Like I love that. Like a cute little blonde Barbie who's like, with a 180 on the LSAT. To me, that's the best. And writing about those women makes me so happy. So Phoebe's one of them, and people have really responded to her.
Is this a real account, by the way? I meant to go on and look if this, like, what was it?
No, but I should, because that would be like such a perfect.
Free to be Phoebe. You should totally do that.
That would be such a great Easter egg, when people put those in the books. What I really wish I had done.
Before you leave today.
I'm doing it. That's so
You're
smart.
You're going to sign up for that.
The other thing when I did a podcast the other day, the woman who interviewed me was like, you have to make t-shirts for the 5B. So the people who have not read this book or listening, I when the hotel is failing and word gets out, all of it is like there are thousands and thousands of people who are devastated. They might not be showing up there anymore to book hotel rooms, but they can't imagine that this institution won't be around anymore. And so they start a GoFundMe page, and it's called the 5B, Bring Back the Borscht Belt Baby. And so this person who interviewed me was like, you need merch. Like you need
That's true.
Bring Back the Borscht Belt Baby t-shirts.
There's a lot of merch you could do.
So I'm like, maybe some merch, not a bad idea.
First you have to go back and post the things that she posts in the book.
Yes.
Right. Start with that.
You're so smart.
Thanks.
I mean, you guys already know that, and I already knew that.
Thank you. It's not smart. It's just these are fun ideas, you know. I don't know. You also have this great intergenerational, like, how do we deal with when a son is obviously gay and hasn't come out to his family? And you have this whole scene, which was hilarious. By the way, one of my favorite scenes in the whole book, but that's okay. And, you know, it's like Pride Month or whatever it is now. Talk about that relationship and how the older generations are like just wasn't they just didn't want to see it.
Absolutely. So the Catskills, one of the main purposes of going to the Catskills wasn't just to like get out of the city. It was also to marry off your children. And if you remember Robbie from Dirty Dancing, he went to Yale. He was like the waiters and the bus boys, like, and the bellmen. These were like highly educated people who were there either, you know, to make connections for their jobs, which was huge. Like you might be serving a table one summer and then you're at Goldman Sachs working for the person you served when you graduate college. Like it was a great way to network. And also many marriages came out of the Catskills. But there weren't too many grandparents walking around saying like, do you know, like with a grandson saying like, do you know any nice boys for my grandson? Like it just wasn't out there. But of course, I hint at it at the book. It's not to say that same-sex stuff wasn't happening. It just certainly wasn't out in the open. So naturally, like I really wanted this book to be modern. And so the idea of everyone being straight is ridiculous in these times. And if I really wanted to show the differences between the generations, like having Michael be gay was just perfect. Like it let me explore the themes of like, you know, modern versus tradition and acceptance and the changing nature of, you know, even like the Jewish community and like what's accepted. And so his grandparents, I think, really just don't want to see it. They can't even imagine it. Nope. They don't really know people who are out. They live in a bubble. And Michael's parents see it, but they're just completely consumed and busy. And they don't have the relationship with him where, you know, he's officially come out. Sure, they suspect it. And so it also is just about like, you know, the hotel brings them closer, and the hotel and being away from phones and work and slowing down and having a chance to actually go for a long walk and talk gives Michael the chance, you know, to have a heart-to-heart with his parents about his sexuality, though he's outed not in the way that he might have wanted to be.
I also really liked Amy because she had to, is that how you pronounce it?
Amy.
Yeah. How she had to deal with a husband who ends up, you know, making a mistake very early on in the book, and how she then has to kind of deal with it with both her kids and her husband and whatever. And then I was thinking it would be so cool if there was some sort of meeting of Amy, and I don't know if you've read Lauren Weisberger's new book.
Not yet,
The grass is green and the girls are pretty, because her husband, well, there's also, it wasn't necessarily her husband, but there's like a transgression that happens. It's sort of similar. Anyway, I thought it would be so great to have those characters like go out for coffee. So no, I was like, you know, like in the Jeffersons or something where people would like cross over into like different stories.
I mean, that was the best.
So I feel like the two of you need to get together and like see what would happen when Amy gets coffee.
You know us both.
I'll put it together. Yeah. I would like to
set it up and we'll write a little script.
This is what happens. I spend too much of my life now in books, and now I'm like, ooh, I need that character to be this other character.
As long as you don't start like inviting these people to your house for dinner, I think it's okay. Like, and we know you've crossed the line.
Elijah and
exactly.
You know, Amy are sitting here next to each other. Oh my gosh. And even aging, you talked about so beautifully with Louise and what happens.
I think it's hard. My grandma was really beautiful. And when she started to lose her looks, it was really hard for her. And I remember it. Like she would still like, I would go stay with her in Florida because of course she lived in Florida, and I would stay with her in her apartment. We used to share a bed when I went to stay with her. And I wake up at like, no matter what time I woke up, she was already out of bed because she was like doing her face, doing her hair. Like I felt like, I think I could wake up at 4 and she'd still be gone. Like she'd start a half an hour before I ever woke up, because putting on her face was so important to her. And she talked about like feeling invisible sometimes. She worked as a receptionist at Solomon Brothers, which then merged with Lehman Brothers. And she was the receptionist. They don't put the ugly people as the receptionist. She was beautiful. And back in the day, like men came in and they loved to flirt with her and talk to her. She was beautiful. And like as she got on in age, it stops, and the looks stop. And she had a tough time. And Louise is like that in the book. Louise is beautiful and glamorous and, coming to terms with aging.
So funny. My grandmother, who recently passed away when she was 97, she was like, I've never looked better than when I turned 90. She's like, no one ever used to tell me I looked amazing. She's like, now, every day.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
I like that.
She loved it. She was like,
well, one of my friends told me, like, he's like, I just want to tell people that I'm, 10 years older than I am. And then everyone just says, you look amazing. Like, you're 60? You look amazing for 60.
That's so funny.
Like, it's a great way to get a lift.
A compliment out of anybody.
Exactly.
Oh my gosh, it's so funny. Okay, so you've already written your next book completely, or
no?
what?
Oh my God, I wish.
No,
I wish. I mean, having the kids this whole year with COVID, it's like it was just a nightmare. My son, my oldest, was home 3 days a week. He only went to school twice a week. I felt like every other day the cohorts were quarantined. It was such a crazy year. So my job is to finish it this summer. So the minute all three of my kids are going to sleepaway camp, June 26th,
wow.
It's like if I could just throw them out the window, get them there today, like I would just, I would go, helicopter, please, please put them there, because I have spent so much time with them, as you know how it is. Like, yes. It's just been nonstop, constant for so long since last March. And of course, they didn't go to camp last summer. And I love them so much, but I don't feel that I've been able to really think clearly in over a year. And when they leave, when they are in camp, I've never had all three gone before. This will be the first time. But even when I'm down one or two, it feels like a drawer in my brain got organized. Like it frees up space, like almost like you delete on your phone and you have more memory. Like that's how I feel. Like I'm no longer like, what time is Lila's pickup? And Charlie dentist, and shoot, I never got the cavity drill. Like just that running cycle in my divorced. Head.
I'm kidding.
What about that 50% of the time where you don't have them? Is that glorious or not?
No,
really?
It's terrible. It's terrible.
You miss them.
It's not 50%, at least. But the weekends that I don't have them, I'm like every other weekend, I have what you're talking about. I have the reset. And that's how I'm able to like be a functional human being.
You do so much. So it makes sense that you do have a couple days where you don't have them, because I don't know how you could do it otherwise.
I wasn't doing it otherwise. I wasn't doing it before. Like you need that.
It feels like my brain, I don't necessarily even feel smarter. I feel clearer.
Yep.
And that there's just more space because I don't have to deal with just the logistics.
Yeah.
There's just so many logistics.
I'm still dealing with logistics, even if the kids are not in front of me. You're still, But
and by the way, I'll still be dealing with some of it when they're in camp because I am telling you, it's like the school is trying to mess with us. Like June 26th, they will get on the bus and leave for camp. And then by June 30th, there will be like, the medical forms are due at your child's school.
I'm already getting the medical forms email.
Magnus Health is already after me.
Magnus.
And then you start getting the fall activities. We'll start emailing you over the summer, like early bird special, spaces limited.
Blah, blah, blah. I'm like, I've already missed the tryouts.
I mean,
what if she wants to be on this team?
It's
too late.
Such a treadmill.
Oh my gosh. Anyway.
It is such a treadmill.
But at least we know you'll be writing this book.
So I will finish the book this summer. Actually, I also teach. I hired one of my students to help me this summer. She's just like, I wouldn't call her a research assistant because it's not such a research heavy book. But like every time I write something, it's like checking for the inconsistencies. And wow,
that's awesome.
You're writing this, like, I think this is, this scene is supposed to take place in December in Connecticut. And you have her in a tank top outside. Like, catching those types of like little inconsistencies.
Oh my God, that would stress me out.
Well, I don't look at them. Like I'll do it in a chunk. She's working through it because that's the hardest thing for me. I have big ideas and I get super excited about my ideas and my plot developments. And then I will like change someone's name in the middle of the book and then forget or I'll have like, something that just doesn't make sense. Like, you said that she is a senior in high school, the daughter, like you have to mention college then. Like you can't, if this is... And so she's picking up those types of things. But it's even just like you talk about her eating breakfast and then the next scene, you haven't accounted for the day. Like, and so that type of thing I find really helpful. I've never had anyone like that before, but this student was super promising, a really incredible writer. And so she's helping me and she's just like organized.
You should have her write an essay for Moms Don't Have Time to Write.
Maybe I will. She's really incredible. And by the way, talent is not distributed equally, because I had office hours with her the first time I really got to know her, and she's a brilliant writer. And we were meeting about her midterm, and I asked her a little bit about her life and when she's graduating this and that. And she's like, well, I'm in a little bit of an untraditional path at Yale because I'm also in Dear Evan Hansen.
Stop.
Yeah.
Okay. She's definitely writing.
Yeah.
Get her to start writing her own book.
Can you? Oh, well, she's so talented, and I'm sure she will. But I was like, so you write that well and you sing and dance? So just come again?
It's not fair.
Yeah, she's the understudy for the sister character.
Oh my gosh.
It's huge.
That's
character.
a huge part. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
So some people have a little more talent than others.
Oh my gosh. Or she could just come over and like sing for my kids.
That too. Yeah. She's amazing, and it's been fun. And, you know, she's digging. There's a lot of, I guess, research. The only really research in the book is that these particular women were in high school in the 90s. And so was I, actually, but I don't remember everything.
There's a new Instagram account. You have to check it out.
What?
It's like, I have to find it. It's something like at New York City in the 90s or 1990s.
Oh, really?
And it's all the pictures from when we were all in high school.
Well, that's what I want to get the hairstyles right. And like, I know by the end of the 90s, like we did have smartphones, but not smartphones, but we had cell phones. But like, I don't know, was it the StarTAC? Like, I need those details to be correct. How much was like a Happy Meal at McDonald's? You know, like I just want to.
That I don't have.
But like that kind of thing she'll be helpful with, you know, and even just, I like to do these inspiration boards in my office. So even just printing out pictures so that when I walk in, I'm like, I'm in the 90s.
That is so cool.
I don't know how I feel about the 90s as a decade.
Yeah, I don't know.
Like, it doesn't have much of a personality, I don't think.
Time for a rebrand.
I agree.
Awesome. Okay. Well, advice to aspiring authors. I feel like you might have new advice because you keep cranking out some awesome content.
Aspiring writers. I mean, I teach writing, and I believe in the value in taking writing classes. So I had done a lot of writing when I was in undergrad. I think that you certainly don't have to go back to full-time school, but I did classes at Gotham Writers Workshop, even here in New York, when I decided to switch from being a lawyer to being a full-time writer. I think that, of course, talent plays a role, but a lot can be learned. So I think take a writing class. If nothing else, it's a workshop environment. It forces you to write. So you have to do the assignments. You have to read other people's writing and critique their writing. You have to turn in your own work. And I'm sure I'm not the first, and I won't be the last to say, read. Just read as much as you can. You will pick up a little writing tip from every book you read.
Awesome. All right. Last Summer at the Golden Hotel. Everybody go pick it up.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Moms Don't Have Time to Read Books. Don't forget to follow me on Instagram at Zibby Owens and at Moms Don't Have Time to Read Books. Also sign up for my newsletter at zibbyowens.com and sign up for my virtual book club and meet lots of authors on Zoom every other week. Thanks so much to Steve and Ryan at Texture Sound for the sound editing. And thank you to Morning Moon Productions for providing this fantastic intro and outro music.